Bounty hunters have always been a staple of Star Wars and have always added a nice touch of outlaw badassery to any given Star Wars story. Each bounty hunter is usually unique, and most of them have a distinctly sinister vibe to them, especially the more popular bounty hunter characters like Boba Fett and Cad Bane. But the titular bounty hunters of the Clone Wars episode we'll be discussing tonight were different. They were cool looking outlaws and all, but they weren't sinister at all. Rather, they were fighting for a good cause. In this installment in our series on underrated Clone Wars episodes, we'll be discussing the 17th episode of Season 2, Bounty Hunters.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Before we begin, we highly encourage you to pause this video and actually re-watch the episode. Don't worry, we'll be waiting for you when you get back. If you've watched the episode just now, feel free to fast forward to the start of the next video chapter here on YouTube. If not, let's quickly recap what happened in the episode. Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan are shot down on Felucia and are forced to seek help to get off planet. They make their way to a village of native Felucians, which at first seems abandoned. The Jedi find 4 bounty hunters sheltering in the village and a fight nearly breaks out, but cooler heads prevail when the villagers come out of hiding and explain that they hired the bounty hunters to protect them. The leader of the villagers explains that their farms have been under constant threat from pirates and that they turn to the bounty hunters for help. He asks the Jedi to work together with the bounty hunters to protect the village, and the Jedi are promised transport off-world in return. Reluctantly, our heroes agree to work with the bounty hunters. The pirates end up being none other than the Onaka gang. The Jedi attempt to reason with Hondo Onaka, but the pirates refuse to stop harassing the Felucians, and the villagers are forced to prepare for battle. The Jedi and bounty hunters help train the villagers to defend themselves before battle breaks out, knowing that they alone wouldn't be able to fend off the whole pirate gang. Battle breaks out, but the Jedi, bounty hunters, and Felucians ultimately win the day, and Hondo calls for a retreat, declaring that
this effort is no longer profitable!
The Jedi get their ride off-world, having developed a new respect for their bounty hunter allies. Unless you live under a rock, this story should sound familiar to you. The tale of a hero who comes upon a small village threatened by unscrupulous raiders and teaches the villagers to defend themselves is one that's been repeated hundreds of times over. It's often associated with westerns, but this isn't even the only time this story has been told in a Star Wars show. The Mandalorian did its own take on this basic plot in its first season, though it should be noted that this episode of the Clone Wars came first. Just because this episode's a new spin on an old tale doesn't mean there isn't anything worth mentioning about it. We're instead going to be taking a look at the episode's outlaw characters, the eponymous bounty hunters and the pirates. Bounty Hunters introduces 4 new bounty hunter characters: Sugi, Embo, Serapas, and Rumi Paramita. Sugi is the leader of the group, a confrontational Zabrak with a love of vibroblades. Embo is a Koyuzu warrior, a tower of muscle with an armored hat and a bowcaster, both of which he uses as lethal weapons. Serapas at first seems to be some kind of tank droid, but is later revealed to be a much more diminutive being in a mech suit. Rumi is a sniper who never says a word and is unceremoniously killed off later in the episode. Each of these bounty hunters, well, with the possible exception of Rumi, was an interesting addition to the show's character roster, not least because of their moral ambiguity. All of them have the same sort of sinister feel that most other bounty hunters have in Star Wars, but none of them can be pinned down as evil. They're hardly paragons of virtue either, of course. At the end of the day, they're bounty hunters, and later episodes of the show went on to reveal that they were willing to work for Hutts and Sith Lords, as well as helpless villagers. They're chaotic neutral, but do have some sense of honor and righteousness.
We don't break deals.
Bounty Hunters also does well in that it delves a bit deeper into each of the 3 main bounty hunters and why they act this way. Sugi, the group's outspoken leader, seems to genuinely have a strong moral compass despite her aggressive attitude, while Embo is more of a warrior's honor type, committed less to justice and more to keeping his word and not shrinking from a fight. Serapas, meanwhile, is clearly insecure about how small he is without his armor, and it's not a stretch to say that he's probably committed to this fight because he empathizes with the villagers. Embo also gets bonus points for style. This is hardly groundbreaking stuff, of course. Many of the characters, both in Star Wars and in other media, fall into a similar category, but these bounty hunters are special for two reasons. Firstly, they were the first characters with this sort of nuance in a mainstream Star Wars story. Previously, any bounty hunters that weren't antagonists of some sort only appeared in the expanded universe. Secondly, these sorts of nuanced characters aren't too common in media that's accessible to kids, so the Clone Wars earns points there. Then there's the episode's antagonists. Everyone loves Hondo Ohnaka. If you don't, then we're sorry, but you're wrong. He and his gang appeared prior to this episode in Season 1, where they made a hell of a first impression by capturing Count Dooku, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan, and outsmarting the Galactic Republic. They live up to that impression in Bounty Hunters, in which they again serve as the antagonists, albeit in a much more clear-cut and aggressive manner. This time, it's not just the work of one of Hondo's upstart underlings that causes conflict. The pirates woke up and chose violence in this one.
But you know what I always say, speak softly and drive a big tank.
It's worth mentioning though, that Bounty Hunters does a much better job of striking a balance between the Ohnaka gang being threatening antagonists and full of comical characters than their introductory arc did. In Dooku Captured and the Gungan General, the pirates never felt like a real threat. They were clearly way out of their league in messing with the Sith, Jedi and Republic all at the same time, and they had an air of just stumbling around through life and having stuff work out for them anyway. There weren't any real stakes in that arc, even when Turk Falso and his followers stopped messing around and started a battle. But in this episode, the Ohnaka gang poses a real threat. This time, they're the ones with the tactical advantage. The Felucian villagers are pretty much helpless on their own until the Jedi and bounty hunters give them training, but even then, it's an uncertain fight. Hondo has a whole lot of pirates at his command, a pretty hefty tank, and a warship at his disposal. If he wasn't after the village crops, he could probably just turn the whole village into a crater with that frigate of his. The pirates are also much clearer antagonists this time around. They aren't just screwing with the powerful to make a quick profit, they're harassing a peaceful village. Despite this, the Ohnaka gang retains its charm, and Hondo's still funny, even though he's being pretty terrible. Bounty Hunters strikes a nice balance between presenting Hondo as a credible threat without making him any less silly, which is honestly an accomplishment. It works because the Bounty Hunters provide a clear foil for the pirates, presenting an image of what more honorable outlaws are like to contrast with the depredations of Ohnaka and his boys. They don't really change anything about Hondo, they just provide context to his character. So, that's our look at Bounty Hunters, another highly underrated Clone Wars episode. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on the episode, and what episodes would you like to see us cover in the future? Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.